Prince Harry, OK? Half in, half out. Can we shake it all about? Well, what is this all about?
I can't see a world ever where he's able to just undertake royal duties and that not be the story itself.
Everything that Prince Harry does gets an undue amount of attention.
I think the mood music has been for some time now, at least a year, that there is reconciliation is the goal, it is the aim.
Do you think the Montecito, they're getting a little bit overexcited about what they perceive as success when Harry came over?
He's left the door open, but if you remember, there was a time when Prince Harry was saying the royal family should apologise to me. No way, it's the other way round.
I think he himself is the biggest block to him coming back.
But we'll squash it today. It's done, it's over. Welcome to Royal Exclusive, where this week Prince Harry is told in no uncertain terms he has no future as a half-in, half-out royal. But why is this suggestion even being made? Sarah Ferguson could be cast out herself over damaging emails she sent to Jeffrey Epstein. The Prince and Princess of Wales had an emotional visit to Southport where they promised the victims of last summer's knife attacks they will never be forgotten. And it's back to the Vatican City for King Charles this autumn. But why isn't he embarking on a major royal tour? I'm The Sun's royal editor Matt Wilkinson, and joining me in the studio this week, I'm pleased to welcome royal author and commentator Hugo Vickers and news.com.au's royal reporter Bronte. Right, Hugo, I'm sure you are familiar with the lyrics of the old childhood birthday party song, The Hokey Cokey, which say that you're in, you're out, what's it all about? Prince Harry, OK? Half in, half out. Can we shake it all about? Well, what is this all about, this idea?
Well, this is no surprise. I mean, that deal was struck, as you know, before they went off to Canada. And then they were given a year or so when all the appointments were held in place. So if you want to come back, if it hasn't worked out, they decided no, they want to stay there. So I don't see what's so surprising about this. That was the deal. But it cannot be, of course, because, as you know, everything that Prince Harry does attracts a lot of publicity, and that would be totally counter to what the King and the other members of the royal family are doing, should he return to royal duties. So I'm all for him reconciling on a personal level, father to son, but beyond that, no.
Bronte, the palace have come out and said, no chance. There's no half-in, half-out deal. What's going on?
Well, I agree with Hugo that it's not surprising that it's a conversation that I suppose exists all these years on now that, you know, deals have fallen apart in California, because it is always what they said they wanted when they left the royal family. However, I found this report really surprising, the timing of it, because I think we've talked about this previously. Everything we've sort of heard, particularly from Harry's camp, is not that he's looking for a return to royal duties, but we do know by his own words he's looking for reconciliation. And this takes it to such a further level. Coming back to official duties is a very different thing than him patching things up with his father, or even maybe one day, who knows, his brother. So I found that very interesting. I can't see it happening, and nor should it. How would it ever work? Because so much of the story now, whenever Harry steps out in the UK, and it will go on for some time, is that the story is, how does he fit in with the royal family at the moment? Is Meghan going to come over next time? Will the kids be coming back to the UK? I can't see a world ever where he's able to just undertake royal duties and that not be the story itself, as opposed to putting the spotlight on the work that he'd be doing for the royal family. So I think there's just there's a no-brainer that it's not going to happen.
Well, where's this come from then? Because the story over the weekend, wasn't it, Hugo, suggesting that there were high-level talks between the King's team and Harry's team about doing shared engagements, that he wants to come back 5 or 6 times. And also there was a quote over the weekend saying that in many ways his trip back to the UK recently was to show Prince William that he could take some of the weight off him. I'm not sure I believe this.
I don't believe any of those things. I mean, this is what always happens. As Bronte says, you know, everything that Prince Harry does gets an undue amount of attention. And you know, even when he was over here, people were comparing the engagements that he was doing with what Prince of Wales and Catherine were doing. And it's very counterproductive. But having said that, you know, I'm all for him reconciling with his father, because he carries a lot of emotional baggage around with him anyway. The death of his mother. He's probably looks pretty unhappy in his present life out in Montecito. I also worry about the children, because there's going to come a point when they're going to say, why haven't I met my grandfather, on either side? And so he's storing up a lot of, emotional problems for them, I think.
I don't say this a lot. We don't say this a lot about royal stories outright, but I simply don't believe that there is a conversation for him to come back half in, half out, or in any capacity. I think exactly as you said, I think the mood music has been for some time now, at least a year, that there is reconciliation is the goal. It is the aim. We've seen it in the way that there's been behaviours in that direction, and with the kids being involved and maybe wanting them to be over in England and getting to know their family. I think that's the story when you boil it all down. I think that is what we're looking at. But the rest of it, yeah.
There's no harm in them having a meeting. I mean, I'm very glad that he did go and see his father. The king has, by the way, always been very good. He hasn't responded to any of the jibes thrown at him by Prince Harry in the book, in the interviews and all those things. He's left the door open. But if you remember, there was a time when Prince Harry was saying the royal family should apologise to me. No way. It's the other way round. He should be apologising to them, and let's hope he did.
Yeah, we still didn't have one. We talk about this quite regularly. Like, I think that's the only way forward. You know, when he met the king, he should have got down on bended knee and apologised for everything that's happened. I can't imagine that happened.
Maybe he did, though. We don't know what was said. Who knows?
Well, that's a good thing.
Yes, well, yes, exactly. Yeah. And further to the mood music and then what we've seen of this theme of reconciliation, we don't know what was said. I don't know, maybe Matt does secretly, but I don't think the briefings have happened about what's gone on in the meeting.
I'm working on it, guys. Right. One of the comments, the reaction to this idea that Harry was wanting a half in, half out, the palace hit back and said, no chance. As you point out, you signed this deal years ago. There's no chance for a half in, half out deal. You can't do it. But one of the comments was that stood out to me, that someone close to the King and Queen said that maybe Harry's team are mistaking tea and cake with the Treaty of Versailles. This meeting with the King has not ended the row. It doesn't herald back Harry's, return to the UK. Do you think in Montecito they're getting a little bit overexcited about what they perceive as success when Harry came over?
No, I'm sure they are. I mean, everything that we hear about Harry always seems to come from their team. I don't think much comes from the King, frankly. I don't think the King is ever likely to be telling anyone what was going on for the tea. I mean, I just hope they had a bit of a catch-up because, as I keep saying, it's a very unpleasant situation for the King to be estranged from his son. He obviously loves his son. But remember that crucial remark that he made in his brilliant speech the night after the Queen died. I wish them well as they form their new life overseas.
No, it's very important. That was his first kind of address
overseas
as king. Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, if we were to believe some of these stories, so if we were to think that maybe there was something in it that Harry wanted a half in, half out role, how do you think that would work?
Well, we know it wouldn't work.
Well, it wouldn't work, but also, and again, let's play devil's advocate and say this. There's truth to this report. At the very least, and we have just seen the best example of it with the state visit with the Trumps, is that Prince William is the heir to the throne, and he is extremely senior and important to the monarchy right now. He is on terrible terms with his brother, by all reports. In what world can they possibly be even distant colleagues, which is what it would effectively be? It's completely untenable. So, and again, I don't really want to put too much weight in it because I've already said I don't believe it, but even if it were to happen, that in itself would be a huge stumbling block. I don't see how they could overcome that. How could they both be on different sides of the country, working for the same team, the way things are now?
Do you think it could work, a half in, half out deal?
No. I mean, the Duke of Windsor had the same problem. He abdicated really actually quite honourably and quietly, and he just didn't fight his corner. He went off to France, and then he thought, wouldn't it be nice to come back and reinvent myself as a younger brother of the King, living at Fort Belvedere, very much on his own terms? No way, you couldn't have two kings. And in this case, I don't think you can have two princes.
What's the main obstacle then? We discussed this in the past. Is it the fact that William won't want him? Is it the fact that Harry lives in the United States, or is it the fact that Harry possibly isn't showing any desire to coming back to do this?
Well, he probably isn't showing any desire to come back and do royal duties, but I mean, he's taken a different path, and he's gone public on a lot of things, and he's making money. The royal family are not out to make money. They are there to work for United Kingdom and Commonwealth, and that's what they do very effectively. They don't compete with the sovereign. I mean, he's put himself into a terrible position. I mean, he's basically no use to the royal family at the moment. Absolutely not.
And all the points you just made as well, and I agree. But all the points you've just made about what the biggest issue would be with him coming back, all of them are significant reasons why he wouldn't be able to. Not least of which is I really don't think from what we've heard from his side a lot over the last few months, especially, is that he's apparently quite happy being out of it. So I think he himself is the biggest block to him coming back. But also, as you've mentioned, he's put himself in a position where if that ever did happen, again, the coverage around him is not about the causes that he would be championing within the royal family. Yeah. It would always be about the controversies of the last 5 years, because that is the attention that he gets when he's back here. And I just don't see that dying down. Maybe, we're still talking about the Duke of Windsor and all of those sorts of things. I mean, these things live on. Yeah. You know, in the last 5 years has been extremely dramatic.
But the sad thing is he's good at, you know, I've seen him, you know, with out in the Caribbean, you know, he plays cricket with the kids, he plays football with them. I mean, and he looks very happy. He looks much happier, by the way, doing that than he does when his wife's chopping up petals and scattering them on salads and he's standing in the garden.
Sorry. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to clarify as well. When I say that him doing duties in the UK is surrounded by that controversy, I would say that's when he's within the royal family, that's where that would be an issue. When he was here recently and during the Well Child Awards and the other engagements he did that week, I thought he did great work because exactly as you said, that's what
he's trained for that,
yeah.
You see. I mean, that's what he's good at. And I mean, and he was very good in the army too. And he was very happy when he was in the army. It's sort of a horrible situation that he's got himself into. But, you know, many times when I sort of give rather pompous lectures at schools, sometimes I have to say, especially talking about the Duke of Windsor, if you have to choose between the path of duty and the path of supposed happiness, always choose duty because it'll make you much happier in the long run. He's chosen this. I mean, it's miserable. The Duke of Windsor was miserable too.
So we're going to squash this idea that Harry wants to come back in for half hour.
It.
However, there is a lot of mischief always being caused when this idea comes up, and it's not going to go away. Even though the palace is saying that you don't have any chance for a half in, half out, there's still going to be people that are thinking he might come back. But we'll squash it today. It's done. It's over. Now, one thing that hasn't been squashed, unfortunately, for Sarah Ferguson. Now, this isn't necessarily 100% new because we knew in 2011 that Sarah Ferguson had taken a loan from Jeffrey Epstein, who I'm just going to say, Jeffrey Epstein is the worst person in the world. He's a horrendous man. We knew that she'd taken a loan, but what we do know, and as the front page of The Sun on Sunday, is that she had written semi-gushing emails, really, to Epstein shortly after, because she was almost apologising for an interview in which she'd given, where she'd called him a paedophile, which he is. He was a convicted paedophile, but also calling him a supreme friend. She's lost a lot of charity work or a lot of charity patronages, could hit her in the pocket. Bronte, do we feel sorry for Sarah? Has she been caught out here, or is she the architect of her own downfall?
There's a lot in that, Matt. I would say the last sentence, I have to say I have a lot of sympathy for Fergie over the years because I actually found her to be a royal that as a lot of people do. She's quite relatable almost in her gaffes over the years because she seems to have this survivor instinct and she seems to be someone who does, you know, she makes terrible mistakes, but she seemed to be, you know, her heart was in the right place. This one here, I don't see her reputation recovering from it. I do have some sympathy for her in that I think she has honestly the worst judgment only really comparable to her ex-husband, but she has horrendous judgment. It's once again been shown here, but this is a particularly damaging one for her reputation ongoing, even though, as you say, it was 14 years ago or whatever. It's because we did have that interview where she condemned Jeffrey Epstein exactly as she should have done. He was at that point, crucially, a convicted pedophile, so there was no grey area there. And she had condemned him and publicly so. And then a few weeks later for us to now know that this grovelling email, and it is grovelling, had surfaced. Now, I will add, in terms of the sympathy, I'll add the layer that her spokesman had said.
There were mitigating factors, basically.
Yes, that she had felt threatened or that he could destroy her. He absolutely did have the capacity to do that. That is true. He's a dangerous and evil man, Jeffrey Epstein.
We're told this Hannibal Lecter chilling phone call
yes.
that Fergie received. I mean, even in one of the emails, she said that she was... one of the emails she sent to Jeffrey Epstein at times, she felt broken and lost and bedridden with fear over the dealings with Epstein.
This is what I mean. She's gotten into bed, so to speak, with someone who is because we talked about, you just mentioned the debts. She was on the brink of bankruptcy. She's borrowed money from him. There's different lines about how much money that was. Clearly, she had ties to him in that regard, and I don't doubt that he was a very terrifying man who was completely capable of threatening. We don't know all the details of exactly what happened, but the difficulty she now has is that she clearly had these ties to him. At that time, as I said, convicted pedophile, we all knew that. She's the mother of 2 young children, which, that's something as well. I just think, I don't know how you're maintaining any contact with a character like this, nor should anyone, but even adding that and given the crimes that he had. But also, it's that concept of public trust, which the monarchy really relies on. And I know she's not in the monarchy in the official capacity, but she's monarchy adjacent. And she did say, I've cut ties with him. I will never speak to him again. We now know just a couple of weeks later, she did. And again, in that quite gushing email. So reputationally, for someone who has survived so many scandals, I think this one is different. I do think that this one won't recover, and we've seen that by the very swift reaction with all these charities that have dropped her. It's sad all the way around. Jeffrey Epstein is a horrible, terrible man, and it's around him. Everything around him is poisoned.
The upsetting thing is that obviously Sarah has had two types of cancer. She has skin cancer, she had breast cancer, and she's lost patronages of cancer charities because of this, something that's very close to her, and I think that's going to hurt. Yes. But also financially, if she ends up losing work, because they're not being paid by the King, all right? The King's, cut Andrew and Sarah off. Their house is Crown Estate, so they have to pay for the upkeep, but it's nothing really to do with the King. They're not working royals. Should Charles, or is Charles able to do anything if this gets worse? It's
extremely awkward all the way around. The beginning of it, as you've mentioned, the charities and the work she was doing, of course, as a children's book author, very uncomfortable given the nature of the crimes we're now discussing with Epstein, which is, of course, the paedophilia. So I can understand why they've dropped her. It is a shame because, as you said, she did great work with the Teenage Cancer Trust. I think she'd been with them for 35 years. And that doesn't take away from the great work she's done, and she clearly cares about these. But you can also understand from their perspective, you bring in these high-profile figures to be part of the organisation in order to bring donations and to help them with their work. And if there's controversy surrounding her, or if the public image of her has changed very dramatically to one that's negative, that can impact their donations, etc. So I can understand that that's the issue there. I think in terms of them making money down the line, I think you always run the risk of people taking extreme measures if they literally are cut off in terms of I've always thought that with Andrew, there's always the danger he's going to write a memoir or we'll get the next Spare. I don't know, but I don't want to put ideas in anyone's head. But that is a risk you run. It's how do you solve the problem of the Yorks and this ongoing Epstein nightmare? I really don't know. I don't envy the King's position on it.
Well, just finishing on Sarah, I do worry this isn't going to go away. Well, not worry, but I think this probably won't go away. Do you think it's infected the wider royal family, or is it just contained to Sarah?
I don't think so. I think exactly as we've approached this, it's an uncomfortable, it's an awkward one. It's again appalling judgment, but I don't think it reflects badly on the King. I think it puts him in a spot where really, though, it's just as these scandals come up, and this was 2011 emails, so we don't know. There could be more. It could be 10 years from now and there could be more resurface. It's a headache. It's uncomfortable. It's not something they want to be associated with, but I don't think in terms of their actual, well, let's say the royal brand, I don't think that people are looking at it and going, oh, well, these emails from, the Duchess of York to Epstein, the King and William and all of these people are tainted. I don't think so. I don't think it ties in.
OK. We'll move on for now, but I don't think it's going anywhere, this story, unfortunately. Hugo, Prince and Princess of Wales. They've been in Southport this week. Now, this is continued level of support that Catherine and William have been showing and giving to the town after those awful knife attacks.
Yes.
It was quite an emotional trip for the town, but also for Catherine and William. Well,
I mean, there they are doing exactly what the royal family should be doing, giving comfort to people when they're in distress, and they obviously did a very good job. It was like when the Queen went to Grenfell Tower, all these different things that happen. And that is what the royal family should be doing, and not doing competitive things which cause a lot of trouble elsewhere. So, I mean, full marks to them, and I'm sure that Southport will be feeling a little bit happier today. I mean, it's a pretty ghastly situation, but I think a royal visit like that has a huge effect.
It does. I mean, it point out it's the second time that they've been back.
So they came back, yeah.
This one they went to the schools, the two schools. So it was very much concentrated on the children who were just going back to school this year, and I think there's a new community garden that had been opened, and that's where William gave a speech. And I've seen a lot of William talking. I've been to many Earthshot prizes, and I've seen him be very impressive on the stage. But I thought this might be one of his strongest moments in this speech that he gave. He'd met the parents of the children that were killed, and he said to Southport, the town, the community, we will always be here to support you. But also, to the parents, we will always be here to support you. But to the wider community, he said, you will never be forgotten. These messages are really powerful coming from William.
They're good messages, yeah, absolutely. Very good messages.
And it's I guess when I was watching it and seeing the reaction of the parents that spoke to William, you think, well, this thing happened last year that the world kind of stopped for a minute, because it really was on the scale of horrific things to occur. We're all so shocked. Unfortunately, the nature of the world and global news is that more horrific things will happen, and the world keeps spinning. Yeah. But seeing them back there and having that moment where they're speaking with the parents and they're sort of just reminding everyone that, yes, the world kept spinning, but your children, these poor little kids, it hasn't been forgotten. And what they've done there in terms of moving towards healing in that community is very beautiful, and it shone the spotlight on that. I was so touched watching the footage of them there.
And it works so much better. You pointed out Grenfell there, because I do remember Theresa May, the Prime Minister at the time, went to Grenfell and she got chased out, whereas the Queen went there and people were very, people were very supportive. It's the longevity of the royal family that they can actually show kind of authenticity by going to, as you pointed out, Bronte, because this is something that people move on and watch something else in the news, but they've got the longevity to stick with it and support it.
The trouble with Theresa May's visit, it's so easy for the press to say, well, it's just done for political advantage. The Queen she wasn't seeking office, and basically when she went there, I always thought she brought this huge portfolio of all the other places she'd been to, Dunblane, Aberfan, Lockerbie, all these other places that, she'd visited over the years. So, so, I wasn't there, but I know somebody who was, and said the atmosphere was absolutely extraordinary. It was kind of the respect of the monarch, the respect that she'd taken the trouble to visit them and to listen to their stories for a few minutes. A huge effect.
Does the Prince and am I taking a too big a leap here? But does the Prince and Princess of Wales, when they're doing this, does it remind you in any ways of Queen Elizabeth II?
It fits perfectly into what I'm always saying. The role of the royal family. Which is to be useful, to be, to comfort people in distress. That's one of the things that they do very well. To show respect to a broken community. To their presence there will sharpen people up a bit and got them moving. Probably. They may well have spotted something that needed to be addressed. All sorts of things happen after a royal visit, which is really good.
And it wasn't just the community; they had private time with
exactly.
With the three
and then once again, isn't it nice that it was private?
And I won't be trying to find out what was said in that conversation. No. But it's really nice. I wasn't there. I didn't get the rota, but I'm told from people there that it was very emotional.
Yes.
And very powerful. Yes. And I can imagine, as we're being briefed, that they will be returning.
I'm sure.
This isn't something just a photo op where you go 1 or 2 years and never returns.
Well, it was the first, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was the first engagement Catherine did last year when she returned to royal duties, was go to Southport. It's clearly something, of course, it's important, especially to people here in Britain. Everyone remembers how awful they felt when they heard the news. But for her to choose that as the first place that she went to and then to return this year, obviously it means a lot to them.
Yes.
You can see that being an ongoing commitment.
I think same time next year, I think might be the thing, but no pressure on everyone. So the King and Queen. Now, so we revealed in The Sun this week that the King and Queen will be going back to the Vatican City next month. This will be a very short 1 or 2 day trip where they will meet the new Pope, Pope Leo XIV. They were only there early this year. They met Pope Francis privately. The state visit to the Vatican City had to be abandoned because Pope Francis was very ill. Yeah. But it's an important trip for the King and Queen.
Very much so. And I think that it's rather interesting because it sort of follows on from the Duchess of Kent's Requiem Mass, which is the first big Catholic service in this country like that he'd attended. And actually in that service, there was a message from Pope Leo, which was addressed first to the King, out of protocol, I guess, and then to the family afterwards, and talking obviously about Catherine. But I think that you'll find that this is sort of kind of followed from that, right. and the sort of the very nice balance in that particular service between the Catholic side and then the normal the piper and the national anthem and things like that, and then finally the Christian committal at Frogmore. It was a sort of very good, ecumenical exercise. And so to follow it up with a state visit, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the King, as you know, is very keen on the different religions, as indeed was his father and grandmother, actually, his father's mother too. They're very interested in not just Protestant. I mean, he has to be head of the Protestant Church, but he's very interested in the alternative religions as well.
If you don't mind me saying, because I was stood outside in a pen with lots of photographers and journalists, and I did see you go into Westminster Cathedral. Would you be able to tell us what that was like for you at the funeral of the Duchess of Kent? Or?
Well, I thought that it was the most extraordinarily unifying and uplifting service. I mean, I was actually in the cathedral for 3 hours, but it just sort of whizzed by. I mean, it was beautifully done. Everybody was sort of in tune. Everybody was sort of in this, respecting her. And in a funny way, in death, she sort of moved on that. Is it right to say ecumenical movement a little bit, just another little step, because there was the king, there was all the royal family and things. It was a very, very moving service. Because I think what's interesting to the response to her death was that, people saw her as somebody who did her royal duty, but also actually at a certain point working within the system, not outside the system like the Sussexes, asked the Queen's permission not to go on doing those duties, but to go and be a teacher and, to work with children. And she found a new métier in later life. And I think people found that balance wonderful because in a way she was, she was being self-effacing. I mean, she was Mrs. Kent. She wasn't using her royal connection. So there'll be a lot of children in the last week or so who said, oh my goodness, it was her, that they wouldn't known.
I'm going to keep banging this drum that it does show that you can step down as a working royal and do it.
Yes, but she did still do a few things. Every now and again she would appear, but she didn't have a very easy life because she had she lost a baby, and that upset her very much. And then she became a Catholic. She wasn't born a Catholic by any means, but no, I mean it was extraordinary. I think that there was a very, very beautiful service, and everybody who was lucky to be there came out feeling totally uplifted by it.
Well, I really appreciate your memories, and it's fascinating.
But she was a lovely person, I did a book with the Duke, and so they were living together at Wren House, which is part of the Kensington Palace complex, and was lovely to see her, and she's a very, very sweet-natured person.
Okay, thank you. I just want to return briefly to the Vatican state visit. So we're there earlier this year in April, and they're returning to the Vatican City just for a couple of days to meet the new Pope. I do have worries about this because I was in Samoa after the Australia and Samoa trip just under a year ago. All the press that were there were told that this was a great trip for the King, a real tonic for Charles, and in 2025 they will embark on a full programme of foreign tours, which involves a spring tour and an autumn tour. We don't have an autumn tour, Bronte. Are you worried?
I'm not worried. I suppose when I was thinking about, the King's schedule, he's still undergoing treatment, right, out of London. There's logistical challenges, I would imagine. We don't know the exact details of all of that, but there's logistical challenges that would emerge from that. Possibly that's changed a little in terms of the timings. I don't know. With that said, it's been a very big year for the Royals. You've used the word worried. I'm not worried. I think that he looks energetic when we see him. Certainly all the duties he's had to undertake. We had the French state visit. We've just had the US visit. Yes, it's less trips than we would have probably seen, less than we would have seen from the Queen around the same era, but the late Queen, I should say. It would have been nice to see another autumn tour, and I know he's doing shorter tours when he goes as well. But at the same time, I suppose, we only found out last year about his cancer. He's been living with that. I think he's done a really good job all the way through in returning to duties as soon as he could, and being in these, undertaking these state visits and the trip last year to Australia and Samoa. So I think we, I understand that there maybe adjustments have been made, and maybe there'll be more on the cards for next year. I think there's still optimism. I think
what they're saying to us is that the Trump incoming state visit was huge, and there's going to be another incoming visit in December. But I just keep going back to this idea. I sat there in Samoa and they said to us, we will be working, we'll be having a full programme of foreign tours next year, and we don't have that for the King, Hugo.
I don't think they need to be long, these tours. I think that you'll find that the Vatican visit, when it happens, will be a very effective one, and therefore if it can be done in, I don't know, it's a couple of days or something.
I think we'll be there 2 days, yeah.
Yes, I mean, all to the good. We mustn't overwork the King. He's been through a lot. I mean, you will have watched the Trump visit. I mean, he was there all day long. I mean, all the morning and all through lunch, and then the thing in the afternoon, and then the banquet and the speeches. That's a long day for anyone. I mean,
a long day for me. I was there all day as well.
Covering it, I should think. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, maybe pick your battles then. You don't need an autumn tour. But Sophie and Edward have just been in Japan, or in Japan, and Edward's been in Papua New Guinea. That would have been good.
Yes, and that's why you have the team. You know, everyone's able to do bits. But how do you feel about it then? You seem quite disappointed that he's not on the autumn tour.
No, it's just I think we need an update. We need an update. Say a year ago, we were told that the King was, we're going to go on these full tours, and I keep returning to that briefing, that information that we had, and now we're being told, there's lots of incoming tours, and it worries me. If the King can't go on a long autumn tour, there could have been a trip to India, Pakistan, maybe not now because of the recent kind of worsening relations between the countries. Could have been a Caribbean tour, could have been Japan and Papua New Guinea. So I am endeavouring to try and find out some kind of update for what his plans are for next year.
He's meant to be going to revisit Trump, is he not, next year?
We hope there'll be a Canada and USA trip in April.
Yeah, well, and he did a very quick trip to Canada, remember?
24 hours we were there.
I mean, but okay, so it's a short visit, but what about all the flying to and from? Exhausting, for anyone, let's face it, especially somebody of his age who's still having treatment. So I think it's the art of the possible. I don't think they should overwork him, and I think we must understand that. And the same with the Princess of Wales. She occasionally backs out of something. We must understand that. She's got to get well. They've all got to get well. She looks great. But then we mustn't overdo it. We mustn't expect too much.
Well, I'll calm down. I'll get my passport ready for my quick trip to Vatican City.
Calm down, Matt.
Tell you all about it when I come back. Right, we've got a bit of time for our quickfire questions, if you're all ready for this. So, which royal, past or present, has heaped the most shame on the royal family?
Oh, goodness me, Charles I?
Wow, that is past.
Well, if we're going right back, we'd do like a Henry VIII or something. But do we mean modern royals?
You can answer in any way that you wish.
Oh, goodness, that really opens up 1,000 years of history. Anyway, okay. I will say recently, I do think Prince Andrew's. So I'm going to leave that as the answer. That's officially. I know there's others throughout history, but we'll keep it to the last 100 years.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Chuck in Edward VIII.
Sure.
I've been reading a lot about him lately, but yeah, I think
that's what I mean.
answer.
You can go right. There's so many more. This show's a whole other episode.
Yeah. Okay. Who is the kindest royal?
I think the Princess of Wales is pretty high up there. I think she shows great kindness, and we've been talking about it a bit today, the empathy she has. And it's one of those things, Diana had a lot of empathy too with people, and it's something that you can't fudge. And when Diana held a child, she held it totally naturally. Other members of the family, I'm afraid even like Fergie holding a child, didn't quite work in the same way. So I think Catherine has a lot going for her, I would say.
That was beautifully said, and I completely agree.
Good.
And it's more than that. Sometimes it's the private stuff. I remember, was it Lady Gabriella Windsor? Catherine invited her to help out of a Christmas concert last year. Those kind of little behind-the-scene touches as well, where it makes you feel genuine.
Yeah. It's thoughtful as well, isn't it? Yes.
Okay. Donald Trump celebrated the food, the many paintings, and host King Charles in a TripAdvisor review of his state visit. But which royal premises is your favourite tourist attraction?
Ooh.
Well, I love Windsor Castle. I suppose I know it best, one way and another. It's a fantastic place. And I mean, it's quite interesting that when Gorbachev was invited to lunch by the Queen at Windsor Castle, it had to be explained that actually that's close to the airport and it's very convenient. And it'd be nice because he felt perhaps he ought to be invited to Buckingham Palace. Trump, on the other hand, said, well, Windsor Castle is much more important than Buckingham Palace, and it's certainly much nicer.
I think he was told that it was, but I actually think it's better.
Oh, it's wonderful, yes.
And it's not just the castle, it's the beautiful town around it, Windsor. I just love Windsor. But so, yes, that one also. But I have to say, and I think I've said it on the show before, when I went to Balmoral for the first time last year, it genuinely took my breath away. I mean, the whole area, the Scottish Highlands, and as we drove in, couldn't believe the landscape. And then you get there and it's just this picture-perfect little castle. It's beautiful and the grounds are gorgeous. I happened to be there, I think, on a very rare sunny day, which helped. Can't be guaranteed on a tourist day. But yes, they're all great.
Loved it, of course. That's because it reminded him of the sort of landscape in Germany as well, with all the sort of pine trees and things.
Yeah,
yes.
It's just beautiful.
Yes,
it's absolutely beautiful.
Which is Sandringham is not, of course. I mean, that's a very ugly house. And I think somebody once said, one of the Queen's relations said, shall I I really like to blow it up. And what would you think? And the Queen said, I'm not sure if I should mind. But I mean, they used to go there a lot, but it's a very ugly house.
We were doing so well for the British tourism industry then, but to stay away from Norfolk and Sandringham.
I was thinking that. It sounded like an ad for Royal Tourism. It was perfect.
And finally, after Peter Mandelson was sacked, which royal would make the best ambassador to the US?
Well, you know, in the past, members of the royal family used to be sent to be like Governor General of Canada, people like Lord Atholay, Queen Mary's brother, and they also went down to South Africa. And the Duke of Connaught he was also Governor General of Canada. So what about Prince Edward? You know, what about, and with Sophie at his side? I mean, that would be an interesting choice, because Prince Edward is very calm, he's very measured, and Sophie is very charming, and she's very bright, and she's very outgoing in a very gentle way. I think they'd make rather a good couple, wouldn't they?
I think they'd be great. Oh, anything they are deployed to do, they always seem to do very effectively. So
Yes.
I agree. But I also thought an interesting one, if we were to bring her back into an official role, would be, I think it was Princess Eugenie who lived in New York for about a year. Was it 2013?
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
So maybe if they're looking for an extra hands on deck, maybe she'd be someone who has a bit of a relationship with the US that is a little bit non-controversial that could come in.
Good ideas. I'm surprised no one fell into my trap, which
I
was...
knew you were going to say Prince Harry.
Which
That's
was
why
Prince
I didn't
Harry
say
and Meghan, but I'm glad no one fell into that
No,
trap.
deliberately
Well, they would be
not.
And I'm not
divisive.
even going to say it.
They would be divisive, wouldn't they?
I know. I'm just being silly. Bit like my hokey-cokey opening. Right, thanks, guys. We've gone through a lot. Lots happened this week, and I had a really, really pleasant chat with both of you. Thank you. Right, that's all we have time for on this week's Royal Exclusive. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments as we do read them, and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'll see you next week.